The first thing Alternamorphs does differently is that instead of being broken up into pages, it's broken up into chapters. You read a handful of chapters, and when you're given a choice, you are not told to go to a specific page, but to a specific chapter. This has two effects on the books. One is the longer passages gives the books the option to delve into details, have decently length conversations between characters, and they just feel more like regular books. A choose-your-own-adventure book has to cut its story up into tiny chunks, whatever can fit onto one page, boiling it down to a quick series of story beats. This keeps the pace quick, but nobody's going to call a choose-your-own-adventure book high literature. The other effect is that, with so much space devoted to longer chapters, there are fewer choices here than in a normal choose-your-own-adventure book. Alternamorphs number 1 only has 6 choices in the entire book, and since it's basically 2 stories in one book, that's 3 choices per story. Alternamorphs number 2 fares a little better with 9 choices without such an obvious distribution of them, but that still pales in comparison to most game books. Is that actually a detriment, though? Perhaps it can be forgiven if the actual prose presented is entertaining and engaging enough to carry it. Is it entertaining or engaging enough? I don't know. We decided not to go down that path, and you've got to live with your decisions. However, there is a deep, serious problem within this structure, because Alternamorphs number 1, The First Journey, is not a game book. It's not really interactive, and the reason for this is because there are no branching paths. But Greg, you say, sure, 6 choices isn't a whole lot, but by definition that should make it interactive, right? The problem is that these 6 choices are just illusions. There is only one correct option for each of these choices. Choose anything but the correct one and you immediately die. You have to choose between morphing an animal A, B, or C. Choose A or B, you're dead. Choose C, you live. Repeat 6 times. There are no branching paths at all. There is a single narrative with a couple of deleted scenes stitched onto the sides. To better demonstrate this, let's go back to Oulipo and the idea of tree literature. This is an apt phrase because if you try to map out all the choices in a game book, you tend to wind up with a tree-like pattern. Here are some maps some other people made of various choose-your-own-adventure books. You'll note there's a lot of complexity to it. Trees have been used to symbolize increasing complexity and interconnectivity for years. It shows up in all different sorts of cultures and theologies. It's used as a metaphor for the increased complexity of evolution. It is almost always associated with complex beauty. Now here's my attempt at mapping the paths in Alternamorphs number 1. Each path that ends with a B is a bad ending. Each path ending with a G is a good ending. Yeah, it doesn't look quite as healthy. Almost sickeningly uncomplex. This is not tree literature, this is stick literature. The idea of the reader having any agency in this book is an illusion. This book isn't about you becoming a character in Animorphs. This is about some nameless new character showing up in a remake of an old Animorphs book with a couple of extra chapters where you get to see him or her die. It's a normal book that just happens to be in the second person and in present tense. Scholastic really seemed to drop the ball on this one. It's almost as if they had no idea how to do game books. Despite, being the publisher of one of the most popular game book series of all time. How could they have signed off on this shit? Was this a rush job? I don't know, maybe. Maybe they realized how much they botched this on such a basic level, because Alternamorphs number 2, the next passage, fares a little bit better. Here's my map of that book, and you can see it's a lot more complex. See, it separates into 2 different paths at one point. And look over here, kind of a mini-split going on. Granted, it leads to 2 different bad endings, but that's still way more complex than the first one had. Of course, Alternamorphs number 2 has its own structural problems. Let's look at the choice that creates the big path split there. What happens here is the Ellimist literally puts 2 buttons in front of you, one marked A and the other marked B. You are given no information as to what each button will do. You are clueless. You might as well be tossing a coin. And this is just another way of removing the agency from the reader from the process. If it's just a random choice, then you're not really choosing, are you? None of the other choices are this vague, but this is the most important one. That one that has the greatest effect on the story, and you have no clue as to what it will do. I mean, let's try it out. Click the red button or the blue button. I'm not going to tell you what might happen. Will we continue our discussion of these books? I don't know. Will it lead to something entertaining? I don't know. Just click one. Fuck you. I don't care which one. Just click one. Click one, shithead. Do it now. Go.